Welcome to episode 2. We're going to do a deep dive into the silo portion of this project. So I'm going to turn it over to Chad to talk about it.
These silos, what they are, it's a unique term that we've kind of developed here, what represent the facility and kind of the different needs that we've identified within the facility itself, whether it be the recreation pool or the basketball courts. But in addition to kind of the different programming within the structure that represents each silo, it also is the cost to construct, the cost to operate, cost to maintain, and also maybe the revenue that it can generate. So as we reference silo, as we move forward within these different episodes, that's kind of what we're talking about within this silo. So moving forward here, Caleb, kind of talk through some of the silos that we have.
Yeah, so we have 8 silos. All of them are being worked on concurrently. Silo 1 is our competition pool. Silo 2, recreation pool. Silo 3 is our hard courts, so that's basketball, volleyball, pickleball. 4 would be the turf. That's the training area that we're focused on. 5 is the community and meeting and gathering space. 6 is fitness and its core and what that means. And 7 is childcare. That's a good component to have. That's part of the growing pains of a growing community. And then 8 is our city partnership and how we're going to work with financing and moving forward with bonds and other fun topics such as that. So I'll turn it back to you.
You bet. So as we dig into the different silos, so we've identified the programming within the facility, and so the project team spent a lot of time understanding the feasibility of each one of these parts, so that way we could understand the facility as a whole. So instead of just saying, hey, how does this whole facility work as a 110,000 square foot building, we want to understand how each one of these components that are very, very different, how do they each work on itself, so that way we can understand the whole building together, if you will, because the basketball courts are going to be handled, operated, and managed differently than the fitness center, than the daycare, because each one is going to have a different potential operating, philosophy and a membership structure, if you will. So when we build this within the pro forma, as you're going to hear in some future episodes, this is how we kind of identify some of the revenue opportunities, but also how much it's going to cost, and some of those different types of costing uses and funding structures that kind of go into this. So,
Chad, question
Yes,
for you.
please.
What is one challenge you think that surprised us while we were doing phase 2?
Phase 2, I think the biggest challenge that we found was, I think what we found in phase 1, what we recognized within this to serve the community, that the building is big. The 110,000 square feet is a really big building. There's a lot of components to this, which means it's a really expensive building, and not that we're misusing funds or making this a Taj Mahal. There's just a lot to this building, and I think we want to really dig in and make sure that we're using the funds the most efficient way we can. So I think we need to ask ourselves, and this is why we're doing this phase, the second phase, is really identifying what is the best use of funds, and part of that is the revenue that's going to generate for you all long term. Like, how many tournaments can you bring in on these basketball courts? Is 4 enough? Should we be building 6? Should we be building 2 because we're not going to be able to get enough court or tournaments over there? So we're going to task these teams within these silos to help us figure those things out. No different than the competition pool. Can we get enough usage for that competition pool to offset the cost to build that and maintain that over time? So that's probably our biggest challenge we need to figure out here over the course of time as we go through this process.
I would say for me, it's the constant fluidity as we're trying to take this large project and scope it down to the priorities. Because you said it pretty well, but it kind of surprised me that some days this is exactly what we've dreamed and envisioned, and then the next day it's a completely different animal, and then it reverts back. So it's taken some time, and prioritizing what is important and narrowing that down has been a challenge. But it's been fun to go through that process and see how you can prioritize things as a community. So
I think the unique piece of that is how you all are doing it with the community and with the city and with getting input right? And by having so much input with the different individuals, a larger committee, but also getting surveys and asking folks what they think, that takes time. And it's a good thing, but we are getting a lot of different folks' input, so that way we have a better understanding what everybody needs. Not necessarily what everybody wants, but what everybody needs, so that way we can build the right facility.
Right. I think this helps with context as well, that the 8 silos actually came from community surveys that we did that identified these 8 characteristics and factors that this building should have something to do with that. So we want to make sure part of that process and that time is to actually do something with that. Does it make sense to have project X and Y and Z fit into this building, or does it need to be placed into a different spot? So it just, it's a whole fluid motion at the moment, and we're trying to nail that down like a speeding train. So
as we're wrapping up phase 1 and we're kind of getting into phase 2, you know, what are some of the things we need to identify as we get into phase 2? And it's getting more of a deeper dive into kind of the feasibility part. And we kind of touched on it a little bit. You know, can we sustain both pools, a recreation pool and a competition pool?
so at the end of the day, this is ultimately a math equation.
It becomes a math equation, exactly right? Do we have enough funding to support all of the different silos is ultimately where we're going to get to in phase 2. Absolutely right.
Oh, great. Anything else to add?
Nope, that's perfect. It's a good spot to end.
Well, thank you for joining us for episode 2. We look forward to sharing the next video with you in the future, and we're going to talk about feasibility next, so stay tuned.
Thank you.